Greetings and welcome to Lez Talk About Books, baby, where we talk with your favorite LGBTQ plus authors. I'm Anita Kelly, and today my guest is Jeanette Bears. Hi, Jeanette.
How's it going?
It is going well. How are things for you?
It's good. It's hot here in Philadelphia, but I'm inside in the air conditioning, so we're good for right now.
Nice. Are you getting these storms?
We're about to. I think they start tonight, so it's gonna be kind of crazy.
All right, I'm just a little bit north of you in Pennsylvania, and it's we just had a couple of little nasty things come through. So
we got a little bit of that.
Yeah, bummer. So Jeanette, we don't want to keep talking about the weather. We want to talk about your latest book that is called "You Can't Go Home Again." So can you tell us about this and tell us when is the actual release date for this book?
Yeah. You Can't Go Home Again is my second novel that I've written now. It just came out on the Bold Strokes Books website on August 1st. It's everywhere that you can get books on the 13th. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those good places. And still obviously available on Bold Strokes. It is a contemporary romance. My first was historical. This one's set today. It is about Reagan, a Army veteran who kind of had their career cut short, and they kind of land back in their hometown and run into their high school sweetheart, who now is a thriving physical therapist, and she owns a gym, and they end up bumping into each other, and some messy chaos ensues, and it's kind of a story of both of them getting to know each other again and healing from Ray's injury, and more than just the physical injury, but a life change that was kind of unexpected, and in dealing with that. So
did the injury bring about the life change?
Yeah, so they get injured and get discharged medically before they are ready to retire from the Army. So
okay, all right. So what is the setting for You Can't Go Home Again?
It's actually set in my hometown. When I was writing it, I wanted a small town setting that wasn't like the middle of nowhere, which you hear about a lot. I feel like just something that more people can relate to, where it's not the absolute middle of nowhere, but it's still a small town. And I kept thinking of my hometown, and I never changed it from there. So I was like, I'm just going to lean into this and really pull on some references from my adolescence and, try to keep that authentic. So that it is definitely my hometown. Pretty much all the places in it are real places or inspired by them. So,
wow, that's pretty cool. So, do you think that was like easier to write about because you know it and you can like maybe envision it in your mind versus coming up with like a setting, like a make-believe setting where you have to kind of create the whole place?
I think it definitely helped. It gave like a base so even if I took interpretations with things, it was like rooted in that, like, like memories that I have or places that I know, you can base it off of it, even if there was some interpretation in there. So yeah, I think it definitely helped for sure.
Okay, great. And your characters fit into that hometown pretty well then?
Yeah.
And is it since it's your hometown, is it kind of semi-autobiographical?
I mean, I wanted to have a non-binary character, and I do identify as non-binary, and I haven't read a lot of books, and I like to read a lot that have non-binary protagonists. I would say that the characters are more from my own imagination more than autobiographical. I did work with a lot of veterans doing film workshops in the past. It was a real passion project of mine. Um, and just really got to hear their stories, and like hopefully they're told pretty accurately through Ray. So I would say that part is based off of a conglomeration of a lot of people that I know. But yeah, trying to let the characters be their own, but you know, I feel like all characters have little parts of the author in them. So
They must, right? They have to.
yeah,
It's I can't see how it's avoidable.
yeah, I don't think it is. I don't think it should be either. So
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You said in your other work you work with some veterans. So I know that besides the written word, you work in other media, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your other creative work?
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker and video editor. It's what I went to school for. It's what I started my career doing. I've done a couple short films on my own. I am a director of photography a lot of the time and an editor. So I've put together a lot of other people's visions as well, which I really love to do. And yeah, for a large chunk of my career, that took me into a program that did therapeutic film workshops for veterans and service members dealing with post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, traumatic brain injuries, like a whole wide berth of things. And it was amazing to see how film can, and storytelling, even more than just filmmaking specifically, can really help people through things. So
It's very cathartic, right?
yeah, absolutely. And it like, I think it's the same as being an author or being a filmmaker. Like when you can make a character in a movie, it kind of removes you from your own, like you're not telling it about yourself, you're telling it about a character. And so it's easier to talk about it and make something about it, which I find in writing too. So
It's very true. There's a lot of like parallels between the two mediums, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. So how long have you been in the film industry?
How long has it been now? I've been out of school for almost 15 years or so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so been doing it for a while, and I love doing it on my own. And it's a bonus when you make money off of it, but it's it's good time regardless. So
So, living in Philadelphia, are there a lot of opportunities for film work there?
yeah, I've been connected with some other local filmmakers, which has been really great. And I lived in New York for 11 years. So I have a lot of connections in New York City. So yeah, it's Philadelphia is wonderful because it's I don't want to say it's a smaller version of New York. It's different, but there's access to more work, and it's a great city. So
It is a great city, and it is nothing like New York. I think that it is like a hometown on a
Yeah.
large scale. You know,
exactly. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it's awesome. Philly is
Yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah.
So that's great. I'm glad that you're finding those opportunities down there. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think the last time we spoke was when I think it might have been your first novel, was that Late City Summer was released. And that was like in 19 the 2021.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing since then? What has changed in your life since then?
Pretty much everything has changed since then in a very good way. I was still living in New York then. I've since moved to Philadelphia, and that change was spurred by my wife was pregnant with our daughter. And
Aw.
one of the perks of Philadelphia, it is slightly more affordable than New York City.
Very
But
much.
we were able to buy a house, renovate it, and have a kid all in one summer
Wow.
in 2022. And yeah, we've just been living here in Philadelphia, and I'm actually about to have our second kid at the end of this month, anytime now.
Oh,
So
wow. So are you giving birth?
I am, yeah.
Oh, and your wife gave birth the first time?
Exactly.
Oh
Yep.
my goodness. All right.
Yep.
So this is
We switched the roles.
yeah, new experience for you, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very new.
Good luck with that. That's
Yeah, thank you.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
great. And do you know what you're having?
we do, but we're not telling anybody quite yet. So.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's your business, you know.
Yeah.
Does and how old's your little one? Like 2-ish?
Yes, my due date is actually the day before her second birthday.
Oh,
Yeah, we're on kind of the exact same timeline, so
oh my goodness, that would be a great birthday present for her.
yeah.
That's so sweet. That's great.
Yeah.
So those are some major life changes. um, and do you think like all of that had some kind of impact on this particular book that you wrote?
I think like I'm older now and I've experienced more and like you write what you know and I feel like the characters are I don't want to say more mature, but I guess more mature.
There's nothing wrong with being more mature.
I think it reflects definitely a lot of those changes. Like it's coming from a place of like these are older characters, like they've had different life experiences and because my first book they're early 20 somethings and I was living in New York and it's based off of that and this one's kind of reflecting a little more. It's a little more nostalgic, I guess.
And Jay, I got to ask you, what do you consider older?
Easy. Is that how old am I?
No, not at all.
No, it's definitely like you live your 20s in New York City, and that's exciting, and it's
kind of free and easy, and
yeah, and like Philly is definitely home now, So, and the 2-year-old is talking a lot here in the background. So.
Yeah, I hear that's awesome. That's great. I love to hear little kids like talk like when they're that age. They're the best. Yeah.
She's a cutie. So.
Aww. And I got to tell you, I have not read You Can't Go Home Again, but I am looking forward to reading it because I loved Late City Summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know. You were an unknown.
Yeah.
And I do some proofreading. And I think it was one of the books that I proofread, and I was like, I am digging this. Like I probably read it in like 2 days, and I was like, I gotta talk to this person.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to You Can't Go Home Again.
Absolutely. I hope a lot of people get to read it and check it out. It's fun to have other people read your stuff, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And do you hear from people, like hear from your readers?
Like I'm trying to be better about social media for the book this time around.
Yeah.
It's been great. Like it's always great to get reviews. Like I think too, like coming from my film background, I'm used to feedback of all sorts. So it is nice to hear that. It's a little different with film because you like hear it before and you can like maybe change some stuff. But
true.
Yeah. So I always appreciate it.
Yeah, that's nice.
Sure.
So, we talked about the setting for You Can't Go Home Again, but what about like the character development? Like, did you sit down and do like this extensive character development before you set out to write it, or was it something that you just kind of did along the way? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I really try to know my characters before I do anything with them. So like trying to think of circumstances that they might be in and how they would react to things. So I do think it was fairly extensive. I also made sure to talk to, like in the moment when I was about to start writing, with a couple of friends that I've made through the filmmaking program with veterans. just because they have the actual life experience of being in the military, and I am really passionate about portraying different groups of people accurately if you're not part of that group, to assume, writing about them.
Yeah.
And so I think that was a large piece of it. Just like, hey, if I had a character that was going through this, what would that look like? Like, what's realistic? And like, yeah, and remembering stories, particularly of a lot of veterans who did kind of go through this. They got injured. They were close to having their 20 years of retirement, and it got cut short, and they got medically discharged. And even though they still get a lot of the same benefits, it's a mental thing. It's like you're shoved into this whole other world that you haven't been part of for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, really trying to research that, I think, was really important.
Yeah, you're making your character really more authentic,
Yeah,
more relatable.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and like Jules, the other co-protagonist, she's a physical therapist and owns basically a CrossFit gym. And that's another big passion of mine, is fitness and CrossFit, and just also making sure that was portrayed accurately. And like, I don't know, fitness gets a bad rap sometimes, and just like really trying to be positive that like any person can be in a gym and belongs in a gym and is welcome.
Yeah.
Was a big part too. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's like, isn't that like Planet Fitness's motto, right?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's like for anybody. I like that,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's not for like the typical, like gym rat,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah.
So, have you always worked with the written word? Like, have you, like, I talk to a lot of writers who will say, oh, well, since I was, 5 years old and learned the alphabet, I was writing. And, is that the situation with you, or is that something you just picked up as an adult?
I think it's more as an adult, or I would say like out of high school, when I kind of decided that I wanted to go into filmmaking, because I've always loved film. Like, I've always been very adamant about watching film, consuming film, and also reading as well. Like, I've always been a pretty big bookworm. But like actually doing it for myself, when I switched over to filmmaking in my undergrad, I think that kind of sparked something where it was like, oh, well, maybe I should try to do this myself. And I had written, some screenplays, had been the main thing. And then Late City Summer was really my first, like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to really get into this, and kind of go for it. So.
Well, you did well.
Thank you.
Yeah. For your first, try at that.
I learned so much writing that, and I hope some of what I learned from the first one is reflected in the second one too. So.
Oh, that's great. It's always nice when you learn these things and you can actually apply them as you move along, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you actually hone your craft? Be it, in writing or in film? Like, what do you do on the daily? Or monthly, whatever. It's probably not the daily if you have a day job and a child and another one on the way, but
yeah. No, I think when I'm most effective, because I took a like creative writing class, or it was like get through your first novel kind of class when I was writing Late City Summer, and the best piece of advice I got was like schedule writing time into your calendar, like whether you have a digital calendar or, your paper calendar, whatever it is, like literally block off time in the calendar, and like it becomes a thing, because then it's a priority, then it's real, and it's not just aspirational.
Yeah.
So when I'm really going for it, that's what I think that's the thing that helps most, because it's like, even if you don't get anything done, you have spent that time, you have turned off other devices, like you've just gone for it. So
Yeah, you kind of dedicate that time to even just thinking about it, right?
Exactly, because it's work. Whether it's for money, for a passion project, for an outlet, whatever it is, like it is work, and if you prioritize it and put that in there, it really changes things.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It is work. You're probably the first person to describe it as that, and I appreciate that because people think, well, you can just sit down and I'm just gonna whip this out,
Yeah,
but it's a lot of authors encounter little glitches along the way where maybe they get stuck somewhere or they'll write themselves into a corner and don't know where to go with it,
yeah. I've been there too.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So it's definitely a craft, and I can definitely see how doing it will make you better, right?
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
any other skill. I always say, like, playing basketball, you gotta learn how to dribble, and you gotta practice dribbling before you're really good at it, and can keep the ball from being stolen by someone.
yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and then writing is no different.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, um, what does a typical day look like for you then? When you're like when you're doing your writing, your best writing, like what does it look like?
I mean, for me, uh it's changed recently because I stayed home with the kid 3 days a week. She goes to daycare 2 days a week, so the 2 days that she's in daycare are the ones I try to lock down to really like give some time to do writing.
Okay.
It's also when I take on editing projects, so I'm doing that because I freelance mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so those are like my work days.
Okay.
Um, there's also the precious nap time in the middle of the day, and then um, when we're sitting down watching TV at night, just my wife and I, like that after everything's finally done, I feel weirdly like when I'm kind of exhausted, I can just get stuff onto the page, which is really great.
That's
Because you
that's impressive.
I feel like I have less like inhibitions and I'm just like whatever I'm thinking, I just like put it down instead of like overanalyzing it.
Yeah,
Because you can always take it out. You can
that
always
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah,
so
I was talking to somebody and they had submitted. I think that actually was to Bold Strokes. They had submitted like I don't know how many pages. I want to say like 300,000. And Bold Strokes was like, "Whoa, whoa, this is a little too much. We're gonna cut out some of this, cut out some of this, and we're
uh-huh.
gonna like make this into like maybe three separate books for you." Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So you're right. You can cut it out. Was yeah, I think it's harder to add to it. Like if you don't have enough, or if someone wants you to change something. Has that ever happened to you where they're like, yeah, you need to add something to this scene? Um,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I've had that. I've had take this out. You don't need it, and it's like, but I want it, um, and not need it, and like I mean, a little more in film than in writing, which is a relief. I've had like completely restructure this, like, oh, okay, uh, suggestions. But I also am like a huge, like my strategy, I guess, for writing or like technique. Like I have to have a very vivid outline
Mhm.
before I actually start writing.
Wow,
Uh,
really?
yeah, I like need to know every like plot point kind of before I like expand on it. I
Okay.
don't know where that kind of comes from, but um for me I think that helps in like if it doesn't make sense in the outline, it's not going to make sense in the full thing. So if I can change it in the outline, maybe it's a little easier if I need to change more once it's fleshed out.
That makes sense.
But
Yeah. That's a true skill. Oh, it really is. Yeah.
sometimes it slows things down, I'm not going to lie, but it
Yeah.
does make things efficient once I start writing,
Yeah,
which is good.
I bet you it does. And I bet you it makes just life easier too. You don't have to probably think as hard when you're going along because you already know where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Huh, that's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
since You Can't Go Home Again is published, do you are you working on another book? Do you have any plans for another book? What's
Yeah.
wow?
I we'll see how long this takes having another kid, but
Yeah.
it's actually two of the side characters in You Can't Go Home Again, Jordan and Lexi. Their stories kind of like weaved throughout You Can't Go Home Again, and um, I'm hoping the timelines I can make work where it's sort of happening parallel
Mm-hmm.
to You Can't Go Home Again, like telling their side of the story. So some of the scenes that you see in You Can't Go Home Again, like fleshed out from their point of view, and because it all sort of happens on the same timeline. So,
Wow, that's great. I think a lot of readers, me included, love to see some of our favorite characters show up again in other books. It's always
yeah,
fun, definitely.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things as well, which is kind of why I want to do it. And I like it's definitely already proving difficult because I am doing the outline portion
Uh-huh.
now, but just like because I want it to happen while like at the same time as You Can't Go Home Again, that's been a little tricky because
Oh,
I've locked in the timeline for them and it's like kind of building it within that. So we'll see how that goes.
yeah, that's unique to have it like occur during the same timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing that before. Most of the books that I've read that they're it's like after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And I love that. So I was like, I wonder if we could do this, like,
uh-huh.
give their scenes and then show kind of that same timeline from their point of view that lets their story be unique as well.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. Very cool. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're going to be super busy very soon, huh?
It's how I like to operate. So hopefully it'll pay off.
Okay. So this is just a question out of the blue, Jay. If
Mhm.
you could change one thing about your current home, what would it be?
I am really loving my home and like I think not to totally relate it to the book or be cheesy, but like I've never tried to see home as like my house, but like the people I'm around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if anything, I would like to have more of the people that I love closer. I've made a lot of really cool friendships here in Philadelphia already in the like 2 years that we've lived here. But having some of my longer friendships be a little bit closer to home, or family a little closer to home. I think if I could change anything, it would just have more of the people that I love closer.
Wow. Great
Yeah.
answer. Great answer. Really. I like that. I guess it's the old home is where the heart is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that was kind of a theme of this book. And I don't know. Yeah. My wife and I, like, just to go ultra cheesy, our like first dance song was Crowded Table by the Highwomen.
Aw.
And that's always been a theme, like wanting to have a crowded table in our home and have a place where people can come if they need to, wherever that is. So,
Yep. Yep. Very cool. Very
yeah.
cool. Well, with bringing kids into the household, they'll bring friends into the household. I
Yeah.
think you will have that crowded table very soon.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So, Jeanette Beers, thank you so much for being with us today. Do you have any parting words for our listeners before we go?
I'm just excited for people to get to know Jules and Ray from You Can't Go Home Again, and just really excited to see where it takes me. And I hope I make connections with people through the book. So yeah, I'm
Awesome.
just excited.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we're excited too. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah,
And yes, and again, that book is called You Can't Go Home Again by Jeanette Beers, and it is available through Bold Strokes Books or wherever you buy your books, online or in person.
Yeah.
You can find it. So check it out. And also, Jeanette has another book that came out a couple years ago called Late City Summer. Check that one out. I loved that one. That was a fun book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is all the time we have for today, folks. I'm Anita Kelly, and thanks for joining Lez Talk About Books, baby. So until next time, may your journey be lighthearted, peace be plenty, and be safe, folks.